let's take you now to the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion, and what's happening right now in terms of a pushback from Ukrainian forces. What you can see here, this red line is as far as Russian forces previously went. Now Ukraine is pushing back into what is still Ukraine, the country, but into previously occupied Russian territory. So you can see this pushback. This is in the northeast of the country. It's focusing on Izium and also Kharkiv as well. It's been intense fighting. What's going to happen here is the big question. Is this the start of Ukraine taking back territory, not just in the northeast, but going all the way down to the south as well? Or are we going to see Russian forces, in fact, fight back? So this is happening right now. It's been a pretty intense push from Ukrainian forces. The big question, as I said, is what happens from here. Joining me now in the studio to talk more about this is the Ukrainian ambassador. Thanks very much for your time. The big question, I think, of what a lot of people want to know is this offensive that we're looking at now. Do you see the prospect that this is not just held and further territory is taken, or is that going to be a tough battle against the might of Russian forces?
Of course, it's very difficult because Russians just have a lot of more people, and their military capabilities are much bigger than ours. The good thing about us is that we are motivated. We feel that we will win the war. It's actually 90% of people in Ukraine are convinced we're going to win the war. And these recent advances in the northeast give a great deal of inspiration and uplift. And what is very symbolic also is the footage which I received yesterday and this morning as well of the Australian Bushmasters participating in the liberation of the villages and towns in Kharkiv region. And this is really, and Bushmasters have become a symbol of Australian support for Ukraine. And they are out there saving lives and helping Ukraine restore its sovereignty.
Yeah, well, we've actually got a clip. So 40 Bushmasters have been provided so far. These are these vehicles, essentially like glorified tanks, if you like. Ukraine having recaptured more than 6,000 square kilometres in this area. And we have a new video. It's the Department of Defence has thanked Australia for the contribution.
The Bushmaster armoured personnel carrier is used by the airborne forces of Ukraine to reach forward operating areas. We're grateful to the people and government of Australia for providing these to us. They were a great asset to us in liberating the areas around Kharkiv. Together, we're working towards a victory. Slava Ukraini! Героям слава!
What can you talk to in terms of that vehicle? Why is it performing so well over there? Why is it such a vital asset?
Well, Rook, it's just a good vehicle. It really provides lots of protection from landmines because of this V-shape at the bottom. But also, given that we lack tanks, we don't have enough infantry fighting vehicles, they've been pretty much performing as ones, though they are not. Of course, the primary purpose of the Bushmaster is to transport personnel to the battlefield and take them back. Nevertheless, it's been used for different other purposes. So,
so it's not as well armoured as a tank, but it's got quite good armour for the mobility and speed, right? That's the sort of
mobility and speed, and it has very good protection, probably the best in the world because of its V-shape at the bottom for mines, for landmines, right? But it's fast. It can go up to 100 kilometers. It's got even air conditioning inside because once they've gone through Afghanistan, they've decided to install air conditioning, which was very useful because in the east of Ukraine during summer it's extremely hot.
Yeah, and you know you can't think properly and operate otherwise. So, look, the Ukrainian people have been incredibly dedicated and brave. They want to get back their lives, I'm sure, at the same time. It begs the question, you're on the offensive now. That's usually the time to try to negotiate because you'll get a better deal if you like. What price peace, even if it's not a perfect result for Ukraine, what price peace would you say?
Look, I think we are ready to negotiate peace once we repel the Russians from Ukraine entirely and we can restore the sovereignty. And then, of course, every war ends with diplomacy and some sort of arrangement. But at this particular time, I think Ukrainians are motivated to repel the Russians completely.
And you say that's going even back pre the last solidified Russian
Of course,
line.
including Crimea as well and all the east. Because now it's fundamental for Ukraine. Because, look, it was never about land for Russia. it was all about destroying Ukraine's sovereignty. And they invaded us 8 years ago, and now, 200 days ago of this major assault. So it's all about destroying our sovereignty. So we need to stand up to the bully. We need to end this war. We need to restore the sovereignty over the entire territory of Ukraine, and then we can come to some sort of an arrangement with Russia.
The question, though, if you sort of start to make these advances and then get bogged down again, on the one hand, you've got a Russian president who seemingly doesn't really care too much about his forces. He's in this to the bitter end, and I know Ukraine wants to be, and its people, as I said, their commitment's been incredible. Their whole lives are on hold right now. At what point do you sort of think, well, while we've got the upper hand, maybe we negotiate something so we can get on with our lives, people can go back to what they want to do every day?
90% of people in Ukraine believe we're going to win this war, so there's no time. We're not negotiating at this stage. We're going to repel the Russians, and then we'll negotiate. I think that's a good strategy, and this is what President Zelensky wants. It's what people of Ukraine want. Because now,
but do you worry about their fatigue on this? Because they do want that now, and their commitment's been.
Look, if you talk to those soldiers who are liberating, I'm hearing news from Ukraine. People are uplifted. They really believe we're out there, and we just have to carry on. What is important is that we secure a steady pipeline of weapons and machinery and guns that we need to keep on fighting. And
what is that supply right now? I mean, do you have enough for a month, 6 months, a year?
Look, I don't know the details of that as an ambassador, but it's important that Australia, it's important that all our allies, America, Britain, and France, and Germany, continue supplying those weapons to Ukraine because we need it to be able to restore the sovereignty.
What about economically? How long can you go economically? Because this is a huge...
Look, the biggest problem with our economy is our Black Sea ports are paralyzed. We can't export our products at the speed and scale and magnitude that we used to, including agriculture, because food products we've started exporting them, but we are not at the level that we need. Like, I'll give you an example. Usually we export 5 million tons of grain per month. And as of the past 5 weeks, we've been able to export around 2 million tons of grain. We're just still not there. We usually export much more at this time of the year because we have a lot from the previous harvest, and we already have a new harvest.
Yeah, so there's grain, there's every single soldier out there instead of working, there's people that have been relocated. I mean, you're only able to go right now because of help from the rest of the world, right?
True,
so that's
true.
You're being propped up. Again, do you worry about when people reach a limit of going, look, it's not ideal, can you get a deal done because we can't do this? You can't do it forever, right?
Exactly, but at the same time, the world understands and Australia understands that we need to stand up to the bully because of Russia's goal. If we allow Russia to win in this war, actually gain the territory of what they want, at the end of the day, they're going to resupply, regroup, and mount another attack. So I think it's very important. Several days ago, there was a big meeting in Ramstein where 15 ministers of defense met in support of Ukraine. In 1942, the coalition, anti-Hitler coalition, was 26 nations. So we see the developed democratic nations standing up to the bully. And I think this goes well with the Australian tradition of standing up to the bully. And therefore, it's so important for Australia to carry on supporting Ukraine.
And I think Australia will, I think a lot of countries will, but given there's going to be a time eventually when the people are beleaguered, I get why you can't let the bully win. But even if it's a bit painful to let the bully have what it used to have, for example, look, this must be things without offering them right now. And I get you don't want to necessarily send a message to Russia of, oh, gee, we've only got 6 months left and then we're cooked. But that you must be wary that people won't be able to go forever and that you might need to start
Look, you should talk to Ukrainians about this because I talk to people who are there in trenches. I talk to people who are there in Ukraine. Everybody's mobilized. It's an existential war for us because if we don't fight, we're done. So we have to fight because it's a matter of our survival. So everybody is united. Everybody is focused on one goal of kicking out the Russians out of Ukraine. So you have to, and everybody should respect it because it's our right to defend our land and it's our right to be out there. When we, I mean, our people are
not suggesting there's no right. It's just a question of the difficulty.
Of course, difficulty is out there. But look, what if somebody invaded Australia? What would you do? Would you go and fight?
Got to leave it there, Ambassador. It's a fair question. It's a difficult one.